In our contemporary society, teachers are discouraged to spoon-feed information to the learners. Instead, teachers are encouraged to provide opportunities for the students to discover concepts on their own. One way of doing this is through the inductive learning strategy. In this video, I will discuss another instructional strategy for mathematics in the intermediate grades, which is the inductive learning. The inductive learning strategy, sometimes called discovery learning, which is based on the principle of induction. Induction means to derive a concept by showing that if it is true to some cases, then it is true for all. This is in contrast to deduction, where a concept is established by logically proving that it is true based on generally known facts. The inductive method in teaching commonly described as the specific to general, concrete to abstract, or examples to formula, whereas the vice versa is used to describe the deductive method. In an inductive learning lesson, the teacher design and facilitate activities that guide the learners in discovering a rule. Activities may involve comparing and contrasting, grouping and labeling, or finding patterns. In mathematics classes, the learners engage in inductive learning when they observe examples and then later on generalize a rule or formula based on the examples. There are four processes that the students go through when given an inductive learning activity. One is to observe, two is to hypothesize, three is to collect evidence, and lastly, to generalize. First, let us talk about observe. Children love looking for patterns. When given many examples, it is natural for them to look for similarities and assume rules. So, the key is to give them examples to observe. These examples must be well thought of so that the students would eventually arrive at a complete rule. For instance, if you want your students to discover the rule in multiplying decimal numbers, it is better to use the examples in set B than those in set A so that the students' observations would focus on the placement of the decimal point. Next is to hypothesize. The students form rules in their minds as they observe. In this stage, encourage the students to share their thoughts. Assure them that there are no wrong hypotheses. So we need to acknowledge the variety of the students' ideas, but also streamline them to test only the unique hypothesis. In our example a while back, so in this example, place the decimal point according to the number of decimal places of the factors, which may be considered or which may be the same as from the whole number product, move the decimal point to the left according to the number of decimal places of the factors. Next is to collect evidence. In here, the students test their hypothesis to other examples. If there is more than one hypothesis generated by the class, intentionally give a counterexample for them to test. And lastly is to generalize. Finally, the students would now formalize their hypothesis to a rule. So we need to support the students so that they would use mathematical terms in stating the rule. For example, instead of saying the number of digits to the right of the decimal point, so you can lead the students to say the number of decimal places. Doing this would develop the students' mathematical vocabulary and therefore their overall mathematical communication skills. So as a summary, inductive learning is about the students discovering the mathematical concepts by themselves with the teacher as a guide. In this strategy, the students observe, hypothesize, collect evidence, and generalize. So that is inductive learning. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have learned something.